All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, theys and thems. We're going to do an exercise and pretty much create a rig for our sample character, in this case, Block Guy. You do not have to use your Block Guy. I will be providing one for you. That way we can all work with the same one. But essentially, this is what we're going to make. We're going to create this rig using a script called Advanced Skeleton. As you can see, it's essentially set up automatically. You don't have to worry about building bones. It does a lot of that for you. But I'm going to walk through the whole process so you can kind of see how this would work on your own character. We are going to do this. You are going to turn this exercise in. So please make sure that you pay close attention. All right, I'm going to start a new one. So file, new scene. I don't want to save him. All right, to start with, you will need to go to the assignment that I'm in the process of writing. And you will need to download the advancedskeleton.zip and the mannequin_model.ma. Please make sure before you start anything to download these. I'm still in the process of writing this, but you will need to grab those two files. Once you do that, you will need to unzip. You will need to unzip the advanced skeleton. So you'll double click on that to unzip, and it will create a folder wherever it was that you unzipped it. Okay, so that's important. We need to make sure that that's there. And then we're going to open Maya. So just leave this Finder folder open. Okay, new Maya. We're starting. So I'm going to say new. So we want to install this plugin in Maya. The best, easiest way to do that is to have your Maya folder open, or Maya open, and then have your advanced skeleton folder open, and then you're going to drag and drop the install.mel, and it installed it twice, and it will pop it on whatever shelf that you currently have on there. I'm just going to remove these. My suggestion, just to keep everything straight, is we want to probably create a new shelf. So on the shelf, there's this little gear icon on the right-hand side. You're going to click New Shelf. Click on that gear, say New Shelf. You're going to name it Advanced Skelly, or whichever way you want to know it. And then I'm going to drop that install.mel into Maya. So you don't do it on the shelf, you just do it on the screen, just anywhere. And you should have a couple of buttons that come up. The only one we're really going to deal with is this advanced skeleton button. Okay, go ahead and click that so you can see. When it initializes, it may ask you like a big nasty message that says, hey, are you going to allow this to run? Say allow, and then say all. So it didn't pop it up for me because I've been working with it today. But allow this script to work. Otherwise, where are we going? We need this to work. All right, so advanced skeleton, you press the A. It's got all kinds of stuff. We're going to go through these. We don't have to deal with preparation just yet, but we will be dealing with the body. So we need to have something in here that we're going to rig, right? So that's where that mannequin model that you downloaded comes in. We're not going to import it. What we're going to do is create what's called a reference. That way it doesn't mess with the original file, it just references it. And if we change the original file, it will reflect here. So to create a reference, I'm going to say File, Create Reference, and then I'm going to go find my mannequin that I downloaded earlier, which is somewhere in here. So mannequin_model, wherever it is that you downloaded that. Okay, so it'll come in and it has the sword with it. Go ahead and click on the sword and press H to hide it because we don't need it right now. Probably not at all. And so we have a mannequin in here. It's all in one piece. Okay, there's no separate pieces here. It's all one chunk. And we need that to rig it. Now, if we're doing a different type of rigging, you don't necessarily have to have it as one chunk. But for the type of rigging we're doing today, that's what we're doing. All right, so I have my model. So now I need to put a skeleton in here in order for it to have a rig. So that's where our advanced skeleton is going to come in. On the right-hand side where my advanced skeleton is open, I'm going to click on body. A whole bunch of stuff pops up. It's okay. I got you. Well, I'm going to collapse some of these. So you're going to go to fit. And now you're going to select the skeleton. So obviously we're not rigging a horse. Okay, so I'm going to click on this drop down and find what I'm rigging. They have all kinds of stuff in here, which is super cool. The one I want is called biped, biped.ma. So we're going to click on biped.ma. And then I'm going to click import. Now, what happened is now my import came in and it's tiny, right? Luckily, we can scale this. So in the outliner, if you see this fit skeleton, you can say R and scale it up. I would scale it up so that this bottom circle here kind of goes around both feet, and then we can adjust the skeleton from there. Because what we're going to have to do is tell the skeleton, advanced skeleton, where all these bones are supposed to go. It will reflect the other side, and then it will build all of our controls, which is super cool. But we have to tell it where. All right, so another way we can look at what we're doing is under shading, click on X-ray joints. That way you can see through just the joints so that we can place these inside of our mannequin. All right, so we've worked with bones before. We know that they're in a chain, right? So we can move stuff around and it will move the chain down the line. So we have this one here called root, and that is the root bone of the entire skeleton. Okay, but if we click down the chain, we can move around the rest of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and move root. Let's go to the front view camera, make sure our X-ray joints are on. I'm going to move root down to like the middle of the pelvis. Okay. Now it's not going to move the circle. We'll get this all fixed later. So move it to like the pelvis area. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my hip and kind of move it into the hip-ish area. Doesn't have to be inside. I'm going to grab my knee and move it to the knee-ish area. You can see it's so precise. My foot, move that to the foot-ish area. This one on the chest, well, let me move the chest down just a little bit. So the chest should be about middle of the chest. This one coming off in the arm, this is not the shoulder, this is your collarbone. I'm going to move the shoulder in the shoulder-ish area, the elbow, the hand. Okay, we'll orient these here better in a second. Okay, want to make sure my neck is in the neck-ish area, etc. All right, so that's our front view. Let's check out the side view. Again, I'm going to have to put on my X-ray joints. And I want to make sure the knee is kind of sitting straight down the knee. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. And the foot is kind of oriented at the ankle. Let's move the heel towards the back of course, the heel of our guy. The toes we can kind of set kind of in the middle here. And the toes end we can set at the point. We don't need to worry about the pinky. We're not going to be animating those, so don't worry about those. Okay, I'm going to move the hip forward just a tad. Scoot back the leg. Okay, I know it's kind of hard to see in this position. Make sure the head is kind of in the middle of the block. I'm just going to move everybody in place. Kind of about where you would think those pivots are supposed to go. Okay. Let me look at the multiple view so that I can see what we're doing with the arms. Shading, X-ray joints. Because we have to orient the arms now. So grab your elbow, make sure it's kind of in the middle. The shoulder too. Just because of the nature of this model, we want stuff to kind of be in the middle. Because it's just a block guy. It's not like we're trying to move a real person. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're just trying to figure this out, right? Oh my god. There we go. Okay. The hand, we have to probably rotate that into place. We're not really going to worry too much about the fingers for this assignment because he doesn't really have any. That's not a big deal. Just kind of put them inside. I'm going to grab all the... We managed to get to the point where we have put our bones in place on our character. I want to point out one thing that we need to be careful about, and that is the knee. So, or at least just where the bones are pointing. So with the knee especially, when it builds it, it makes a pointer that shows what direction the knee is supposed to be pointing. If it's not oriented correctly, you could end up making your character look like they're, I don't know, pigeon-toed or flat-footed or something like that. So if that's not what you want, we need to fix that. So within, there's so much stuff going on here, so it's hard to get, to find your way around, and it's easy to get lost. But let's go under Body, Edit, and under Display, let's turn on Joint-Axis. So it shows you every axis of where all the axes are pointing on your bones. So really, we want to make sure that for the knee, this Y is pointing straight out. We don't want it off to the side. We don't want it pointing over here. So this, in this case, looks good. As far as fixing that, you may try rebuilding the skeleton, reorienting it. Maybe don't move this quite as much. Just try to keep and make sure it doesn't rotate where you don't want it to go. All right, so I'm going to turn that off. So now that I have my bones more or less where I need them to be, I'm going to go ahead and build my rig. So back, let's go to Body, Build, and then Build Advanced Skeleton. This is going to take a second, but you can watch it go. And if we did it right, we need to make sure that these pointers are right in front of the knees. So it looks like we've got it. Another thing you may want to do is these controls may be too small. So if you want to fix that, our goal here is we need the foot control to go around the foot. And right now I can't even see the foot controls. Okay, so I'm going to go to under Build. I'm going to go to Control Curves. And then I'm going to go to Scale. And I'm going to just scale it up just a tad. So I'm going to say 1.2 in this case. Make sure you're not clicking on anything. So I'm going to say Scale. Now you can see the feet are starting to get like the little shoe around the foot. Let's do this one more time. And this is pretty satisfactory. Really, I wanted to be able to see this, okay, around my foot. So go ahead and grab that and just see how it moves your skeleton and your controls here for the knees, the knee pointers. So the last thing we need to do is make sure that this binds to the skin so that these controls actually move our character and not just the bones that are inside of it. All right, so we've got our rig, or sorry, we've got our build. So now we have to tell it to bind the skin. To do that, click on your root joint. So that's going to be your pelvis. Okay. If you're having trouble seeing the bones, you can change the joint size under display to be a little larger so you can actually see your bones. So I'm going to make sure to click that root joint. I'm going to hold shift and then I'm going to click on the mesh. Okay, so I should have both of those selected. Then I'm going to say skin, bind skin. Okay, when you do that and click off, your bones should now all turn rainbow. That's how you know the skin is connected. So if you grab your foot again, move it around, you can see now the mesh is deforming along with my character or my bones. Okay, so you may also notice that it's not perfect. There's some things pulling in ways that maybe we don't want. So the next step here is to paint the skin weights. Okay, so I'm going to explain that here. So essentially each of these bones is assigned to control a certain vertice on the mesh. We don't have a whole lot of vertices here for it to control because it's very low poly. So a lot of stretching is going to be happening. So we need to basically tell Maya, hey, these bones should only affect this part of the mesh so that we don't get it stretching things that we don't want. Like, so for instance, that if I move this foot, it does not affect the other leg. Okay, so let's look at that real quick. I'm going to click on my mesh. I'm going to come up here to skin. And under weight maps, I'm going to say paint skin weights. And I'm going to click on the box. Okay, we need to make sure that it's that. Okay, I'm going to click on that. Okay, so when you pull it up, likely it's going to look like this. I've been messing with it before. If you're like, oh my God, I can't see with all this stuff, you can turn that X-ray joints off so you don't have to see all your joints. You can also kind of turn off the display here on your display under in your advanced rigging so that you can actually see what the heck you're doing. I'm going to turn the joints off too. Hide those. All right, so I've got the root joint selected here in my, so this is the skin weights tool. So it shows you every single joint on this list and the chains. And when you click on it, it'll show you what parts of the mesh this thing will affect. So in this case, let's go to knee L. You can see knee L has a little bit of this gray on the other foot. We don't want that. If you need to see this a little better, it's really hard to see with black and white. Come down to geometry color and turn on the checkbox for color ramp. So you can now see in color. So it's more like a heat map of what's being affected by this joint. So this is the knee on this leg. So you can see it's affecting the other leg, and we don't want that. So there's some settings we need to do so that we can paint in, hey, we don't want that right here. So I'm coming over to brush. I want to pick my brush. Let's do solid brush because we want this to be as solid as possible. I'm going to go to opacity, keep that at 1, value at 0, because we want to paint a value of 0 because we want this to be affected 0. Okay. All right. And then if you may have a small brush size, to change your brush size, come down to stroke and change that radius U. You can make it larger. So you already kind of saw that I painted a little bit. So I'm going to paint on the leg a value of 0 to tell Maya, hey, I don't want knee to affect this other leg. Okay, so make sure it's clear. You may also want to, because it's pulling on this leg at the bottom a little bit too, you may also want to paint that out as well. Okay, let's check the ankle. So the ankle joint is also pulling on our neighbor here. So let's paint that out. It's okay a little bit if it pulls at the top a little bit, because that's kind of just how our bodies work. But this is a block guy, so it just depends on how rigid. So the toes, look, it's still pulling on our neighbor. Okay, we don't want that. Toes end, make sure that's clear. Okay, so if I press Q to get out of this, I'm going to turn my controls back on so I can see what I'm doing. So show the motion system. I'm going to grab my foot again and test my weights. So now you can see it's not pulling nearly as much on the other leg. There's still some parts that are. We'll have to mess with that. But yes, that's essentially what skills or skin weight is. So I'm going to come back to skin, paint skin weights. Let's look at the hip. I think it's pulling. I don't really want. So you have to check each joint. Aha, hip part 2 is pulling. So let's remove that. We don't want that on the other side. Say quit. Let's try that again. And now it's not pulling at all. Now you can see it's pulling. So we have to do the weights for the other side because now this leg is pulling on this leg. So let's go back. So skin, paint skin weights. Let's look at the other leg and make sure that the other leg is now not pulling. So now you can see hip part 2 is pulling on the other leg. So you got to paint that. This is mostly the problem area with this model. I haven't seen it be a problem. I haven't seen any other like major problems. We'll check the other joints. Okay, toes, let's get rid of that. Toes ends, get rid of that. Looks like we got it. Okay. Let's go up the chain here. That's fine. That's fine. Let's look at the arms actually. Arms. Okay, scapula. L. Okay, so maybe we don't want it to pull so much on the rest of our character here. Oh, that was this. Yeah, that's the shoulder blade. So let's do shoulder L. Maybe we don't want that to pull. So you just have to experiment. Maybe we don't want that elbow. Okay, that's far enough away that it should be working. We don't really need to mess with the arms just yet. I mean, when we do a more refined version, we can do that. So let me, still pulling, kind of not in a way that we want, but that's okay. Mostly I wanted to show off the legs. So clicking on this again, let's go ahead and say skin, mirror skin weights, and that will copy one side across the other. So that way it is symmetrical. In case we missed anything, or if we only want to do one side. Okay, So that's essentially rigging with Advanced Skeleton. All I want you to really turn in is just show me like the leg deforming. Hooray, you got it. It works. But you can play around with it, test it, make sure he can bend his knees in a way that makes sense. And that's what you'll be doing with your characters when we build them. Thank you.